what I think is important about what EJ said is the paper sets out discussion about caps, and they're very, very different. And what EJ said that I think is, if you're thinking about caps, is really important, is he talked about a cap on the levy. We have lots of caps in New York City, but it's on the assessment, and it's not really an effective tool for keeping costs down if what you're really concerned about is a taxpayer's either ability to pay or the growth in market value. But a levy cap is something that's intriguing, and more, from the taxpayer's perspective, what would be even better is a cap on their bill, their individual bill. But the best way to sort of, I think, accomplish any cap treatment is actually to take a look at a levy cap. And I'm not certain, whether or not, it's 2.5% or what it is, but it actually allows, I would have to implement this, and it allows you to make sure that your assessors are not driving your levy change, which when I came into office, my assessors, several of them had just been arrested, and you don't want them to think of themselves as revenue raisers. And if you actually you cap the assessments, they think of themselves as we're responsible for raising the levy, because if we don't reflect growth and value, there's not going to be any money for the city. And we want to try to figure out how to not have them in that business. I just would want to throw out on the table for this panel to sort of think about, when we talk about local taxes, and what I appreciate about the CBC paper, and also want to congratulate them on it, is looking at the expense side, because we don't just raise taxes for the sake of it. We're actually raising taxes to address costs that we see day to day, because we're meeting up with the people with whom we need to provide these services. And I think looking at the Medicaid burden, I always say, I was talking to EJ, and he said the commercial burden in Nassau County is worse than it is in New York City. And I said I always take great comfort in a couple of things. One is that Nassau County is so nearby and their commercial burden is higher, but also that the District of Columbia's Medicaid burden is much higher than ours. So, if I could take comfort from Nassau County and the District of Columbia, that's a really fantastic thing. But looking at the expense side is really, really incredibly important, and making sure that we have a federalist system, a fiscal federalism system that really shares the burden of taxes in a way that's fair. And us bearing the huge cost of Medicaid, given the number of poor people that we have in the city, is really unfair, and it is one of the areas where we're pleased to know that we have a lot in common with other local governments. Last thing I would say is that I think that we need to spend a lot of effort thinking about the alternative minimum tax, because it actually affects how we're able to pass on, if you will, state and local tax burden to the federal level. And that's not in this paper, and it's something that's of huge importance to the state of New York. I think we are on the top 10 list. 5 of our counties are on the top 10 list. And when you're thinking about fiscal federalism, one of the basic tenets is your ability from a state and local tax perspective to pass on costs to the federal government. And we need to, not to the federal government, but a share. We're able to deduct our state and local taxes, and the AMT has reduced that ability for us to do that. So I hope we also get to talk a little bit about that. So.
Okay, thank you.